taught a children's play when I was at university. I went to Sussex and did French literature. And I worked a little bit backstage at the Gardner Arts Centre there. They always used to put on a production at Easter, normally with professionals. But one year they couldn't afford to do that, so they asked if any students would like to try their hand at writing a play. So I did, and it was called The Bee's Knees Affair. It was professionally directed, but with a student cast. And that played, I think, for about 3 days at the Gardner Arts Centre, and then we took it up to the Edinburgh Fringe. My first book was called Sea Mouse Run. It's a picture book illustrated by Priscilla Lamont. That came out in 1985. The way it came about was I was working for a children's book club. And I was surrounded by books all day, every day, making selections for a magazine that we produced. And one day I was driving down the motorway and had an idea for this story. I thought it was all right, and so I sent it anonymously to a publisher friend. I didn't want to tell him I'd written it in case it was so bad that he was too embarrassed to tell me how bad it was. And I didn't want to put him on the spot either, so I sent it anonymously. And he eventually rang me up and said, I rather like this. Who wrote it? And I said, well, actually, I did. So that was the first one. And then I had a second one published within a month of that. So that came out in September 85, and then I had another one in October 85, which was Knock Knock Who's There? And that's now over 30 years old. Still going strong, illustrated by Anthony Brown. To date, I've written 151 books. And I've been writing for 30 years, so it averages 5 a year. I used to love reading to my children. I can't imagine why people don't do it more. It's one of those times where you just can be so close as a family. And they're non-judgmental, so you can become the characters in the book, you can put on voices. I used to leap off sofas and goodness knows what. It doesn't matter that you're hamming it up. The children don't know. They just love the fact that they're there with you, sharing something that you clearly enjoy doing, and that they get a lot out of it. And the great thing about it is that if you're doing that with them when they're young, books aren't a strange object that they're suddenly going to come across when they go into schools for the first time. That must be so scary to suddenly be faced with this print and not know even which end of a book to start. I think my proudest achievement is winning the Nestlé Smarties Gold Award. It was one of the top awards at the time for spilled water, particularly since at the time I wasn't confident as a writer for older children. And I very much still thought that somebody would say, for goodness sake, just go back to writing picture books. That's what you're good at. Just leave it there. So yeah, that was a big boost for my confidence. And also winning the Children's Book Award for Shush, which I think I knew deep down I think it was a very good book, and is a very good book, and is still in publication now, 25 years on. So that one's 25 years old. Knock Knock Who's There is 30 years old. And that sort of longevity makes me feel good, because it's great to know that across the years children have really appreciated them. Currently working on 2 things. One is a picture book called It's the Troll, which is pretty much put to bed. It's in the hands of my publisher. I'm just waiting for a response. And that's with Peter Utton. It's a follow-up to Help and Keep Out and Shush, which originally came out in 1991. But I'm also going hell for leather to finish a fiction that I started probably 3 years ago, which is about a girl who's has a very overprotective father, and the consequences of his restrictions, the restrictions he places on her life. I'm very much wanting to produce quite a few more books in the next few years. And I suppose the real icing on the cake would be the film version of Spilled Water.